Hess News Radio, WRVA, the voice of Virginia.
Get to work on time and ahead of the pack.
This is Richmond's Morning News with Rich Herrera on News Radio WRVA.
Hey, it's 6:34 this morning on Richmond's Morning News. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. On the voice of Virginia, News Radio WRVA, keep your text messages coming. If you've got things that you'd like the mayor to comment on, or you have a question, I'm going to get the best of them and ask the mayor coming up here at 7:30. An hour from now, we'll talk with Danny Avula, 833-804-1140, 833-804-1140, the number for you to join us. Although I do have a couple of people like, yeah, I seriously doubt the mayor's going to show up. Like, no, the mayor's going to join us at 7:30. I talked to him. He's coming on the program. But, you know, you have to tune in just to make sure, and we'll ask a couple of questions that we have. And then I've got a lot of questions about the proposed increase for sales taxes. And I do want to know about the funding for the city. And I know that he ran on transparency. So I do want to talk about some of that and the waste, the fraud, and the abuse that they're working to try to root out and how difficult that is. So we'll do that coming up an hour from now with Mayor Danny Avula. And top of the hour, don't worry, we're going to talk a lot about Anthony Fauci taking the fifth 111 times yesterday. Was it political theater or was it needed? And I think it just kind of depends on what side of the aisle you want to sit on. Let's bring this one story up, though. So I still get my feed on social media that has a lot of sports things in there. And, you know, I look at them most of the time, but a lot of times I'm just busy doing research for this program when we get off the air. But I did see the story and it keeps jumping up. And then I saw something that I said, you know what, I'm going to bring this up on the program today. So here's what I want to talk about. The WNBA has a controversy right now, and everybody and their brother wants to weigh in on Caitlin Clark and the way that she's treated around the WNBA. I think the WNBA is ridiculous. The fact that she is the biggest superstar in the league, and she is the reason why people pay attention to the WNBA, and she gets absolutely destroyed on a nightly basis by opponents that just absolutely body her up, throw her to the ground. The fouls are flagrant, yet never get called. And the second that she stands up for herself, everybody screams and yells at her. The way that she gets treated is absolutely a joke. The resentment for the cash cow that brought all the eyes to the WNBA is absolutely inexplicable to me, how the Golden Goose is getting kicked every time you happen to see her on the floor, and how the rest of the league absolutely looks at her with disdain and jealousy. I'll liken her to the way that the PGA thought about Tiger Woods. And let me explain this to you. Before Tiger Woods got to the PGA, it was a dying tour. There was not much going on. There was no excitement. There's a bunch of fat guys that look like me out there playing golf. And the sponsorships were starting to dip. The ratings are starting to dip. It wasn't cool. It wasn't going anywhere. Tiger shows up. The whole thing takes off. The money gets better. The ratings get better. People pay attention. It revitalized that dying sport of golf. Can you say the same for what Caitlin Clark did for women's basketball? Caitlin Clark becomes a phenom in Iowa. She comes into the WNBA. All of these people that were watching her in college now are watching her in the WNBA, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You get more eyeballs. You get more people paying attention to it. The difference between Tiger and Caitlin Clark is everybody in the PGA embraced Tiger. Like, thank you very much. Look what you're doing for us. This kid is coming in here and he's raising the tide, and all the boats are getting higher. You look at the WNBA, Caitlin Clark, there's so much resentment because so much is paid attention to her, and the eyeballs are upon her, and the sponsorships are upon her, and the fans are upon her. Everybody else is resentful. Two different leagues, two similar stellar athletes that change the perception of each of their leagues and organizations and tours. One's treated like the conquering hero that he was coming in to save PGA golf. The other gets kicked every time she gets a chance and gets a cheap shot or an elbow, poked in the eye, knocked to the floor, and then ridiculed left and right. So that being the backdrop, her teammate, Sophie Cunningham, who's, I'll be honest, she's not a superstar in the WNBA. She comes off the bench, but she's turned out to be the enforcer for Caitlin Clark. Every time somebody gives Caitlin Clark a shoulder and elbow, Sophie Cunningham's in there to make sure that the play doesn't get too crazy like they do in hockey. There's an enforcer on every team, and if you go after my score, if you go after the Wayne Gretzky of my team, the enforcer is going to come make sure that you don't do that again. That's what Sophie Cunningham's basically become for Caitlin Clark. So she's been outspoken, and she spoke up the other day saying that we should protect women's sports. Young girls should not have to compete against biological males in youth sports. Pretty simple. Now, Sophie Cunningham has had heck rain down on her by people that don't agree with that. So now that's the backdrop. Two little girls, I say little girls, they're high school. They're probably 15, 16 years old. Go to a WNBA game. They're wearing T-shirts that support, I think they say XX, XY, something like that you see. It's a Riley Gaines T-shirt. And they're wearing it, and they have a sign that says, "Thank you, Sophie, for standing up for women's sports." Sitting courtside. Pretty choice seats to see Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. The owner of the Seattle Storm, the WNBA team, leaves her seat, comes over to the seat of these two girls sitting courtside holding their sign, and berates and yells at them for their sign and their support of Sophie Cunningham and standing up for girls' sports. The owner comes over and gets in their face. The fans start in on these two girls. They're walking up the steps. Somebody tries to trip them. There's people over there yelling at them, "Take out the trash." Wow. So much for the intolerance of people that want to embrace everybody. I guess we want to embrace everybody as long as they agree with you. And here's why I'm bringing this up. Had it been anyone else who had done that, if any other owner had gotten to somebody's face like that, they probably would be vilified from one end of the country to the other. If anybody else went and started attacking verbally and getting in the face of two teenage girls to the point that one of them started crying, the entire world would come out and vilify that person. The punishment the WNBA handed out for this owner that bullied these two girls, 5-game suspension, you can't go to the games. What? That's all you did? You gave her a 5-game suspension for bullying two high school girls to the point that you made one of them cry? And by the way, the rest of the fans that were yelling, screaming, cursing at them, the one fan that was calling them trash, I haven't seen anything there. I bring this up. I just raise this up right now because there is a double standard. And I'm not playing whataboutism. What about this? What if that? I'm not doing that. I'm moving past that. We play that all the time. If this were someone else who was conservative, this is what would happen to them. That game doesn't work because then all you're doing is you're asking everybody to play a hypothetical game. I know Ben Shapiro does it all the time. I've heard Glenn Beck do it. I've heard all the talk radio guys do that. I'm moving past that because whataboutism actually makes sense and it's logical. But on the left, there is no logic. There's no logic for you standing there holding up a sign that says inclusion is important, and then you two yell at these two high school girls. I'm moving past that. What I'm saying is, as a conservative, you need to raise your voice, not play the whataboutism card, because it's pretty blatant that an adult screaming at two high school girls that are holding a sign supporting an WNBA player is never right, is 100% wrong. And we can't play the game of, well, what happens if this was on the other foot? If we did this, you'd be screaming and yelling. You know what? Move past that. How about we just say, WNBA, your slap on the wrist for the owner is a joke. You're wrong. The owner should be suspended for the rest of the year and fined heavily for what they did to those two little girls.
1 minute.
And the fact that the players don't stand up for their fans, and the league doesn't stand up for their fans, and the sponsors don't stand up for their fans is even more of a travesty. Let's not play the whataboutism. Let's just do this. You're wrong, and you need to right this. Because quite honestly, I don't know anybody on the right that would be that callous to make a high school girl cry for holding a sign at a sporting event. You want to comment? Please feel free. 833-804-1140. 833-804-1140. All right, coming up on the program, I do want to talk about Dr. Fauci and his take of the fifth 111 times. What does that mean? What does that tell you? What's your takeaway from that? And I got a lot of different people, a lot of different text messages this morning. We'll get to them all. We read the best text messages, 655, 755, 855, and then we'll have the 933 experiment. Today's program is brought to you in part by Pearson's Signature Dealership.